Yeah, those are great resources. Museums often have exhibits on local geology and mineralogy, and some even have collections of gemstones found in the area.
Right, and local gem and mineral clubs are a fantastic way to connect with other enthusiasts,
Right.
learn from experienced collectors, and even participate in group field
I
trips.
bet those field trips are a lot of fun.
Oh, they are.
It's like a community treasure hunt.
They are, and they're a great way to learn about different gem hunting techniques and locations. You might even get tips from seasoned collectors on where to find the best specimens. It's like having a secret map to hidden treasure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from the geological processes that create gemstones to the tips and tricks for finding them responsibly.
Right.
And we've really only scratched the surface. The world of gemstones is vast and fascinating, and there's always more to learn and discover.
It's like a never-ending treasure hunt.
Exactly. Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I wanted to touch on something that really resonated with me in the article.
Yeah.
The idea that gem hunting connects us to Earth's history.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just about finding pretty rocks, it's about holding a piece of the past in your hand.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Gemstones are tangible reminders of the incredible forces that have shaped our planet over millions of years.
Yeah.
They're windows into deep time,
Hmm.
and they can inspire a sense of awe and wonder.
It's amazing to think that these gemstones, which formed deep within the Earth or in ancient volcanoes,
Right.
have made their way to the surface and into our hands.
Yeah.
It's a journey that spans millennia.
It truly is a testament to the power and beauty of natural processes.
All right, before we get too philosophical, let's bring it back to our listeners. What's one key takeaway you want them to remember from our deep dive into gem hunting?
I think the most important thing is to approach gem hunting with a sense of curiosity, respect, and responsibility. It's a hobby that can bring joy, knowledge, and a deeper connection to the natural world.
And who knows, you might even find a treasure worth a fortune.
Perhaps.
But even if you don't, the experience itself is a reward.
Absolutely.
Well said. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I have one final question for you. The article mentioned that gemstones can be found in a variety of natural environments, not just rivers and creeks.
That's right. While rivers and creeks are excellent places to start, gemstones can also be found in mountains, deserts, and even beaches.
So the possibilities are endless.
They really are. The world is full of hidden treasures just waiting to be discovered.
And on that note, we'll encourage our listeners to do some research, explore their local area, and see what gemstones they can find. You might be surprised at what you uncover.
Happy hunt.
We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into the world of gem hunting. Don't go anywhere.
So welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were talking about, the potential of finding gemstones in all sorts of unexpected places.
Right.
And it got me thinking, like, how do those gemstones actually get to those places? I mean, we talked about erosion and rivers acting like conveyor belts, but what's the bigger picture here?
That's a great question. It's easy to focus on, the thrill of the hunt
Right.
and kind of forget about those incredible forces of nature that make gem hunting possible in the first place.
Exactly. So let's take a step back for a second and consider the geological processes that are involved here.
Okay.
So we've talked about alluvial deposits,
Right.
but gemstones can also be found in something called primary deposits,
Hmm.
which are basically the rocks where those gemstones originally formed.
So we're talking about the source, the
Yeah.
bedrock, if you will.
Yeah. Precisely.
Oh.
And these primary deposits, they can be deep within the earth or closer to the surface. They might be igneous rocks like those formed from volcanic activity, or they might be metamorphic rocks, which are rocks that have been transformed by heat and pressure.
Okay, that makes sense. So we have these gemstones forming deep within the earth.
Right.
But how do they end up in rivers and creeks, or even mountains, deserts, beaches, for that matter?
Well, over millions of years, those primary deposits are subjected to weathering and erosion. Wind, rain, ice, even things like plant roots can break down rocks, releasing the gemstones they contain.
It's incredible to think about these, tiny gemstones
Right.
withstanding such immense forces over eons.
Yeah, it really speaks to their durability, which of course is one of the reasons we value them so much.
Right.
And once these gemstones are freed from their primary deposits, they can be transported vast distances, by wind, by water, even by glaciers.
So it's like this grand geological journey with these gemstones, traveling across continents, ending up in the most unexpected places.
Precisely. And as they travel, they can be further shaped and polished by the forces of nature,
Yeah.
That's why we often find gemstones in rivers and creeks that are, rounded and smooth, almost as if they've been tumbled in a rock polisher.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That makes me think about the connection between gem hunting and the history of our planet.
right.
Like we're uncovering these little pieces of that history every time we find a gemstone.
That's a wonderful way to look at it. And speaking of history, let's dive into the history of gem hunting itself, right? Did you know that humans have been fascinated by gemstones for millennia?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Their beauty and rarity are captivating. What's the earliest known evidence of gem hunting?
Well, archaeological evidence suggests that gem hunting, goes all the way back to prehistoric times. For example, Neanderthals. They were known to collect colorful stones and minerals, possibly for decorative or symbolic purposes.
So our fascination with gemstones goes back to our earliest ancestors.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. What about more recent history? Were there any cultures that were particularly known for their love of gemstones?
Oh, absolutely. Ancient civilizations like the Egyptians, the Greeks, and the Romans, they all placed great value on gemstones.
Hmm.
They used them in jewelry, amulets, and even religious ceremonies.
I remember learning about Cleopatra's emerald mines.
Oh, yeah.
Those were legendary.
They were legendary. And the Romans, they were known for their love of sapphires, which they believed symbolized wisdom and truth.
Hmm.
In fact, the word sapphire comes from the Latin word sapphirus, which means blue.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
So gemstones have played this really important role in human history and culture
Right.
for centuries.
Yeah.
But what about today? Is gem hunting still a popular hobby?
More than ever, I would say. Yeah, there's something about, that thrill of the discovery, the connection to nature, and just the possibility of finding something truly unique. It really appeals to people from all walks of life. And with, the increasing availability of information and resources online and everything,
Yeah.
it's easier than ever to get started.
That's a good point. There are so many online communities, guidebooks, even guided tours available now.
Yeah.
It's no longer like this niche hobby
Right.
reserved for the experts.
Exactly. And technology, it's also played a role in making gem hunting more accessible.
Mm.
Remember how we talked about using Google Earth to find potential gem hunting locations?
Yeah.
Well, there are also apps and websites that provide geological maps, mineral databases, and even tips from, those experienced gem hunters.
It's like having a digital treasure map
Yeah, exactly.
at your fingertips.
But while technology can certainly enhance the experience, I think it's important to remember that gem hunting is ultimately about connecting with the natural world, It's about slowing down, observing your surroundings, and appreciating the beauty and complexity of the earth.
I couldn't agree more. There's something, incredibly grounding and rewarding about spending time in nature searching for these hidden treasures.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes gem hunting such a compelling hobby. It combines that thrill of discovery with the serenity of nature.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up this segment of our deep dive, I wanted to touch on something that we haven't discussed yet, the different ways to cut and polish gemstones.
Right.
After all, finding a gemstone is just the first step. To truly appreciate its beauty, it needs to be properly cut and polished to really reveal its brilliance and color.
That's a great point. The art of gem cutting and polishing is a fascinating subject in itself.
Yeah, I'm imagining it takes a lot of skill and precision.
Yeah.
What are some of the basic techniques involved?
Well, there are, several different techniques,
Wow.
each with their own advantages and disadvantages,
Yeah.
But the most common method is called faceting, which involves cutting these flat surfaces or facets onto the gemstone. And these facets are arranged in specific patterns to maximize the gemstone's brilliance and sparkle.
So it's not just about, randomly cutting and shaping the gemstone.
Yeah.
There's like a real science behind it.
Absolutely. The angles and the placement of those facets, they're really crucial for bringing out the gemstone's fire, which is basically the way it reflects light. And the shape of the gemstone itself can also play a role, some popular shapes. You got your round, oval, pear, emerald, and marquise.
Wow, it sounds like there's a whole world of gem cutting and polishing techniques to explore.
There really is.
Now, I have to admit, I've always been kind of curious about the tools and equipment used for gem cutting. Are we talking about like high-tech lasers and diamond-tipped saws and things like that?
Well, technology has certainly advanced the field, and there are, very sophisticated machines now
Right.
that can cut and polish gemstones with incredible precision. But traditional tools like grinding wheels, polishing laps, and even handheld files, they're still widely used, especially by hobbyists and artisans.
It's fascinating to think about that combination of art and science
Yeah.
involved in gem cutting.
It truly is a blend of both. And